Welcome back to The Explainer. Today we're taking a strategic look at a massive enterprise opportunity that is somehow, crazy enough, hiding right in plain sight. We're stepping into the boardroom to examine a glaring gap in the current tech landscape. I'm talking about the urgent, completely unmet demand for the sovereign AI workstation. What we're unpacking here is the factual business case for IT vendors to create a brand new category of PC devices. This is a totally untapped strategic opportunity that the tech giants are currently just overlooking. And as you'll see, the first one to pivot is going to capture an incredibly lucrative market.
Here's how we're going to break it down. First, the AI PC illusion. Then we'll look at the executive security liability, the legacy productivity tax, the cost of financial inertia, and finally, the untapped sovereign market. Let's get right into it.
All right, starting off with part one, the AI PC illusion.
Okay, let's dive into this. Consider the sleek, modern laptop, basically what every single OEM right now is racing to market as the ultimate AI PC. It's a brilliant illustration of the superficial reality of today's hardware landscape. The industry playbook right now is painfully simple, honestly. They take a premium consumer PC chassis, swap in an updated processor with a faster neural processing unit, maybe add a dedicated AI shortcut key to the keyboard, and then they pitch it to the C-suite as this massive digital transformation. But the truth? It's a total illusion. It's just not genuine innovation tailored for executive leadership.
Actually, principal consultant David H. Deans hits the nail on the head here. He says, the global IT hardware market is running a sophisticated confidence game on corporate leadership. Wow, that's a heavy statement, right? But it's absolutely crucial to understanding this premise. IT vendors are basically selling a false narrative. They're taking standard consumer and developer tools, slapping on a fresh coat of AI marketing paint, and trying to pass them off as enterprise-grade executive solutions.
Just look at the structural contrast here. On one side, vendors are pitching this grand promise of total operational transformation, but the reality, it's literally just a component refresh carrying a massive premium price tag. The real operational demands of modern executive leadership require a sovereign, secure-first computing architecture built entirely from the ground up. What they're currently being sold is, well, just reverse-engineered from a developer's workstation.
Which leads us straight into part two, the executive security liability.
So, it all really comes down to one crucial threshold test for any executive device. Can it process a high-stakes strategy document on an offline transatlantic flight? Why does that specific scenario matter so much? Because current AI PCs operate openly on the premise that local hardware functions mostly as a conduit to public cloud-hosted models. They're effectively just thin clients. Think about it. If a CEO is flying over the Atlantic, totally offline, and cannot run a deep reasoning model on a highly confidential document without a single byte touching an external server, then that device is simply not an executive tool. This setup introduces a massive vulnerability. Imagine a chief executive pulling up an analysis of a highly sensitive M&A pipeline, or a restructuring draft, or a critical financial audit using their shiny new AI PC. Here is exactly what happens under the hood. Step 1, the data is fragmented. Step 2, it's tokenized. And Step 3, it is transmitted across external APIs straight to the cloud. The PC hardware might be lightning fast, but the fundamental flaw remains. The data leaves the enterprise. In a landscape defined by corporate espionage and incredibly strict compliance, this isn't just a tech quirk. It's a massive, terrifying enterprise security risk.
All right, moving to part three, the legacy productivity tax.
Now, the problems with current AI PCs aren't just about data security. They extend into how executives actually interact with their machines. This visual perfectly captures the friction we're talking about. Notice the productivity tax imposed by legacy systems at the top. These are built entirely around managed interruption. Standard operating systems basically treat users like administrative triage clerks, forcing them to juggle overlapping windows and endless notification streams. Contrast that with the ideal below: ambient intelligence leading to focused attention. A chief executive's primary operational currency is their focused attention, and current software designs actively destroy it.
You see, hardware vendors are largely just injecting AI features into the exact same broken paradigms. Generative text shoehorned into a word processor, that is not ambient intelligence. A manually prompted AI sidebar is just friction wearing a different label. An executive-class device has to be built for zero cognitive interruption. It needs to provide ambient synthesis of incoming corporate data. High-signal insights must surface on non-intrusive peripheral displays. If a system requires an executive to literally learn prompt engineering or manage a dozen windows just to find a strategic blind spot, the design has completely failed the user.
So why is this happening? That brings us to part 4, the cost of financial inertia.
If the need is so clear, why aren't IT vendors building this? Well, the root cause here isn't a technical limitation. It's financial inertia. The absence of a dedicated, secure executive computing category is a deliberate business model choice made by traditional IT vendors. It's just financially safer and way more scalable for OEMs to manufacture uniform motherboard architectures. They differentiate on the surface, premium aluminum, different colors, segmented SKUs, but this approach pumps out machines optimized for web browsing, totally lacking the unified memory architecture you actually need to hold complex, multi-billion parameter enterprise AI models in local cache.
Because of this financial inertia, vendors are basically forcing executives into one of two totally unacceptable positions. On one side, you have to rely on downscaled local models with limited accuracy. On the other side, you accept total cloud dependency with all the massive sovereignty risks we discussed earlier. Neither of these works for modern corporate leadership, and to make matters worse, these generalized machines never learn. They accumulate zero institutional knowledge, no awareness of organizational nuance, and no domain fluency. Every single session basically starts from scratch.
And here is the crazy market asymmetry right now. Hardware giants are absolutely capable of building purpose-built, local-first AI hardware. Just look at the Surface RTS Spark dev box. But they're doing it exclusively for technical creators. They are falling over themselves to launch highly specialized, unified memory devices for software developers while completely, utterly overlooking the highest value, highest margin market of the entire industry, corporate executives.
Which brings us to our final section, the untapped sovereign market.
To actually capture this market, we have to define what the product really is. It's localized cognitive autonomy. That means the processing power to absorb and protect an organization's institutional intelligence completely offline within a strict zero-trust hardware environment. This new category isn't defined by simple NPU benchmarks or how fast it can summarize an email thread. It's defined by complete architectural independence from the cloud and a total elimination of cognitive distraction.
And the business case? It is absolutely massive. To put this into perspective, we're talking about roughly 1.86 to 2.37 million core C-suite executives across viable public and private enterprises globally. That is over 2 million executives who are absolutely desperate for true data sovereignty and ambient intelligence. And that's not even counting the adjacent roles in legal, compliance, and finance that would definitely require these highly secure devices too. We're looking at a huge, highly lucrative blue ocean just waiting for an IT manufacturer to wake up and claim it.
The writing is on the wall here. The rebadged consumer notebook era for the C-suite is ending, period. Building the sovereign executive workstation is no longer a question of if it matters. It's an inevitability. When you look at escalating security breach costs, intensifying regulatory pressure on data sovereignty, and the widening competitive gap between executives with genuine AI leverage and those without, all of these factors are accelerating this conclusion. Enterprise buyers are simply going to stop accepting a premium sticker on a commodity PC platform.
So, we arrive at the ultimate question, the one that should literally be echoing in the boardrooms of every major hardware manufacturer right now. Which IT vendor will move first? Who is uniquely positioned to leverage their data center expertise and client hardware scale to absolutely dominate this enterprise niche? Who's going to be bold enough to reject the standard upgrade cycle, prioritize zero-trust local architecture, and finally deliver the sovereign AI PC the C-suite is actually craving? It is a multi-billion-dollar question, and the race to answer it starts right now. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and definitely keep your eyes on this space.